Well, hello and welcome back to Asian Drama Black Women. My name is Jill, and on this program, I specifically talk about the believability, the relatability, and the realism of relationships that are played out in Asian costume dramas. And let me be more specific. I love the historic palace dramas. And the reason being, the longer the better, is because they take the time to show you how people evolve in relationships. So on today's program, I'm going to be talking about the 6 biggest losers in Asian costume dramas. Now, let me start by reminding you, if you haven't seen this before, it's the first time, but something that I learned when I started watching Asian costume dramas about a year ago is a term called filial piety. I had never heard of it before, but it's a belief within Confucianism that says when you honor and respect your parents and adults, that your life will go well. Well, guess what? That's the 4th commandment. It says, honor thy mother and thy father so that your life will go well. Well, I got very interested in filial piety, but then I also see how they do such an excellent job in Asian costume dramas in playing out the relationship between mother and father, parents and child, siblings, relatives, friends, leaders, that I think is just pretty amazing. But then there's also some very serious life lessons that can be learned when you watch out the lengthy costume dramas. Now you're probably saying, well, I can see that in a 30-minute sitcom or 1.5 or 2 hour. No, you can't. The way they do this, they play out how people evolve. And the other thing that I really can appreciate in Asian costume dramas is the programs are not about just one celebrity, spotlight on one celebrity, one actor or actress in a program. I love that they have a very large cast and that you can see different dynamics, different personality types, and how those different personality types interact with one another. But on today's program, let me get down to the point. I'm going to be talking about the 6 biggest losers. Now, I'm going to say spoiler alert because I might slip and say something that I don't quite want you to know, but I want you to get an idea. I'm going to mention 6 Asian costume dramas, and there are probably thousands of them out there. But these I watched pretty early on, and I picked up on it very quickly in terms of these are some big losses that people encounter, but not just historically. This stuff happens in today's life, but when we watch it played out through the episodes, there may be some lessons, life lessons to learn. The term filial piety, I think they mention it just about every costume drama that I've seen. And again, historic. I'm really not into the newer generation programs. I love the historic ones. But let me start with Ru Yi's Royal Love in the Palace. Absolutely phenomenally produced production from every aspect. The acting, the wardrobe, the scenery, the storyline, just tremendous. But guess what? It was based on an actual emperor, an emperor by the name of Chen Lung. Chen Lung that lived, I don't know, probably hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. But the character who played the emperor, his name is Wallace Huo, and he plays Chen Lung, the emperor. And I'm not going to tell you too much because you have to watch it. Phenomenal production. I think it's 93 episodes. Remember I said the longer the better. But what he did, and I understand historically, emperors were allowed to have concubines, right? But his childhood sweetheart, who he did marry, and I checked historically, so apparently this is really based on truly what happened. They get into an altercation, and without telling too much, but he strips her of everything, title, even burial plot. Spoiler alert. But what this showed me in this particular production is what happened with him afterwards. You see, sometimes we make decisions about relationships when we are warned by those who are close to us, really love us, really care, and we make decisions about those relationships to cut people off. And then what happens is, as with the emperor, you wind up with a pining spirit about a big mistake that you made. So check out Rui's Royal Love in the Palace. Absolutely awesome. Next up, I think this was the second Asian costume drama that I ever watched. It's Eternal Love, but there's many Eternal Loves out there. Eternal Love, 10 Miles Peach Blossom. Now, I'm not going to talk about the main characters, but I want to mention there is a supporting role character where his name, he's a well-known young actor, but his name is Qiang, but he played the character Li Qing. So here's the deal with him. Haven't we heard this before? He gets busy with his girlfriend's girlfriend, his girlfriend's friend, by accident. But she was willing to forgive him for that mistake. But she came back to him later and asked for a favor. And spoiler alert. But he was unwilling to help her out. And so she cut him off. Now, we can probably identify with relationships that end maybe abruptly because someone's done someone wrong. But in this movie, they also play out how, because he made that mistake, and then he wasn't willing to help out his former girlfriend, that when he comes to his senses, sometimes we come to our senses, but it's simply too late. The person has moved on. So again, great example, great acting, great performance regarding what will happen when we make mistakes and then we try to do people wrong. And then we realize later, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Sometimes it's simply too late. That's Eternal Love, 10 Miles Peach Blossom. The next one up is The King's Woman. Now, interestingly enough, the same actor, his name is Ning Chang, but he plays the Emperor Ying Chung in The King's Woman. Now, this was a little more brutal, but I call him the biggest loser because he made, I can't tell you what the serious end of the program mistake was. I'm going to let you watch it. But he, in the earlier parts of the movie, is willing, even though he's allowed to have many concubines, he exclusively really has the heart for the woman, not the empress, but the woman. But then in the very end, he does something very serious, and he basically destroys any opportunity for restoration. Let's just put it that way. Big loser. Next up, The Legend of Duju, excuse me. The character is Li Chung, and it's played by Chang Yu. Now, here's the thing. This is a little different. He's a loser because he's an innocent bystander. Now, if you've ever been in a situation or know of someone who they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they suffered the repercussions of being there just repeatedly. And in the movie, in the costume drama, you see stage by stage by stage what happens to someone who has simply been done wrong. And he loses out. But what this reminds me of is sometimes we are simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. And we need to be cognizant of our surroundings and who we're connecting with. Okay, so that's why he was a loser. Nothing that he did intentionally, but simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then there is one of just the sweetest costume dramas, and that's The Romance of Tiger and Rose. Oh my goodness. And many, many, many episodes. But I'm not going to talk about the lead characters. Again, this is a support role character. And his name is No. His name is Sheng Ing Hao, and he plays the character Pei Hung. Now, you know, sometimes we're taking advice because we are spoiled brats and we've been pampered and coddled by our parents. And we take the advice, or someone that we know has taken advice that person is just not any good for you. And he had always loved a particular character. And his mama told him, not be bothered. And you see, when it comes to the matters of the heart, of course, you may want good counsel, good advice, but sometimes that person that you should have been with, you made a decision not to be with because of the advice that came from a respectable person, a loved one, but it was simply the wrong advice. And then what happens? You wind up with a pining spirit, you know, trying to win a person back. And once again, it's too late. Okay, and then this is the sixth one. I'm going to call it a day for here. One of, again, I guess just about every Chinese costume drama, Asian costume drama that I talk about, I say that's my favorite. I just love it. But this one is Red Sorghum. I've talked about it before. But here's a case, and the actor's name is Wang Shen, and he plays the character Zhang. Once again, this is where I guess classes and opinions of superiority come into play, where you think that because of your background, because of your affluence, that you are better than someone else. And you observe, or you come to the realization at some point in your life that, again, someone that you love, you kick to the curb, and then you realize later. But in this particular case, again, spoiler alert, he came to the realization of what he had done wrong, that he moved on because of his superiority, his knowledge, his affluence. But he realized after going through an education process that frankly he was wrong. And so, but he didn't have a pining spirit, but he simply wanted to be in the company of that person because he realized how wrong he had been. But I probably told too much, but the key is, if I've said anything that resonates with you or perhaps someone that you know concerning relationships, remember, Asian costume dramas, they deal with real, relatable, believable relationship situations. I highly, highly recommend them. So I'm going to call it a day for now. Until next time, Zhang.